Hello everyone, and welcome to Alternative Design's presentation of Every MLCD Has a Story. I'm Tim Harding, Chief Marketing Officer for Alternative Design. I'd like to welcome you here and thank you for taking the time to tune in on this last Wednesday of the month. Looking forward to a really good month this month. I know there's a lot of business pouring in here at the last minute. Chris is running around like crazy trying to make sure everything gets taken care of so that you folks get paid on time. If you're teetering on the edge of a cutoff date, some of them have already passed, but if you're teetering on the edge, be sure and give your business consultant a call, and we'll do whatever magic we can do to make sure the business gets applied to the month of September so you get paid promptly next month, as opposed to having to let it roll over and not get paid until Thanksgiving. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that you do get paid in a timely manner. So if you've got a case that's cutting it pretty close, be sure you let your business consultant know so we can help you get that through here in the month of September. Today's title is important to me. I mean, I've always been a big believer in storytelling. I've taught classes in professional storytelling and storytelling for professionals as well. It's a critical component to communication, whether you're selling an intangible product like a financial product or just trying to get your message across. So I'm a big fan of stories, and it occurred to me last week that each and every single one of our CDs has a story. You know that we go through the process of looking at the known universe of market-linked CDs every month when the new offerings come out, and then we select primarily through Chris Gross, we select those that we feel are most appropriate for our platform using a variety of criteria. But one of the criteria that we use is we look at having a mix of CDs that do different things and accomplish different goals better than the others. And so you've got a mix for the month of September, which is what I'll be going through, because likely the mix in October will be very similar. But you've got a mix for the month of September where every market-linked CD does have its own story. And knowing these stories and being able to tell the story with the right prospect in front of you should result in an increase in sales and, of course, then an increase in revenue to you. So what I'd like to do is just go through each of the CDs that we had on our platform for the month of September and give you my story about each of those CDs. And so, let's start with what is basically the simplest one to tell, the simplest story, and that's the Barclays 7-year product linked to a basket of 10 stocks. With a 5% auto cap and a minus 10% return floor. Folks, that's not the story. The story is that 1.40% minimum guaranteed annual return. That's the story. The 10 stocks in the basket aren't the story. The auto cap's not the story. The minus 10% return isn't the story. The story on this market-linked CD is that 1.4% minimum annual interest payment that's going to be generated from this CD. Here's what I'm talking about. According to bankrate.com, as of September 18th of this year, the average national yield on one-year CDs was 0.25%. 0.25%. The average yield nationwide on a 5-year CD, 0.82%. So let's put that 1.40 minimum guaranteed annual interest payment from the Barclays 7-year product in perspective. That 1.4% is 5 times. Over 5 times what a one-year CD rate is on average. That's not a bad product to have at your disposal, regardless of the performance of the basket of stocks. 5 times what the average one-year CD is paying. By the same token, it's almost 2 times what a 5-year CD is paying right now. Now, when you've got a 5-year rate of 0.82% and you can guarantee a minimum of 1.40, folks, that's competitive all by itself. But when you add in the final feature that you've got the potential in this product to earn up to 5% in any given year, you've got a winner. That's the story. The story is that compared to a traditional CD, this minimum guarantee product with 1.40 minimum return is huge. So if you've got a plain vanilla CD investor, this is the story you want to be telling, that they can get that guaranteed interest rate that they're used to on a traditional CD, just at 5 times what they could get for a 1-year CD and almost 2 times what they could get for a 5-year CD. Folks, this is a very, very powerful story for your traditional CD investor. Now let's move to the next simplest product, and that's the Bank of the West 7-year commodity income advantage product with a minimum guaranteed return of 1% and a maximum guaranteed return of 7.5%. And of course, you know, this is that either-or product where the client is going to get either the minimum or the maximum, nothing in between. Nothing in between. But let's take a closer look at this and let's see what the story really is. Of course, you know the product is linked to a basket of 5 individual commodities. And in order for the maximum interest rate to be paid, all 5 of those commodities must be equal to or greater than their initial share price on the trade date. If one or more of them is negative, of course, the client is going to get the minimum return of 1%. But let's just look at that. Worst case scenario, we're looking at a guaranteed interest payment of 1%. Let me go back to the average yields on traditional CDs nationwide. 0.25% for a 1-year CD, 0.82% for a 5-year CD. That's 4 times a 1-year CD rate. It's better than a 5-year CD rate. And you've got the potential for a much higher rate of return. Now, I know a lot of you are gun-shy about commodities, and rightly so. But let's put this story in context. Do you want to buy high or buy low? Folks, without question, commodities are down. Here's the last 2 starting in January of 2012. You can see that it's down this year. Commodities are down this year. This is the S&P GSCI index, which is where the 5 individual commodities are chosen from. This is where it is as of September, almost down to the low it hit in July of 2012. Folks, if you believe what we preach, that you should buy low and sell high, commodities are at a low. Now remember, in order to trigger the maximum return on this income advantage CD, all 5 of the commodities have to be positive, equal to or greater than their initial share price. Folks, there's good reason to believe that with commodities currently this low, the probabilities of them going up and all 5 of these being positive sometime in the next 7 years is pretty darn good. And look at the consequences of that. Let's say it only happened 1 time. My top row here. So the client got 1% for the first 6 years, and then it hit once, just once, in that 7-year period. That means the average annualized return was 1.93%, with hitting the maximum return only once. Only once. Folks, this doesn't have to blow the doors off to be a better than average certificate of deposit. I mean, an almost 2% annualized rate of return over 7 years in an FDIC-insured, principal-protected, and guaranteed product. Folks, that's outstanding. But look what happens if we hit the maximum twice. Then the average annualized return jumps to 2.85. If we hit it 3 times, only 3 out of 7, the average annualized return on this product is going to be 3.78%. Folks, that's an extremely, extremely competitive return on a tradition as compared to a traditional certificate of deposit. Folks, this product is getting a lot of disrespect right now, but I'm telling you, the combination of commodities being low and having performed poorly in recent history creates an opportunity. And the opportunity is that if you only hit that maximum once, you've got a better return than you can get on a traditional CD right now. And even if you don't, you've got a better return than you can get on a CD right now, because with a 5-year CD at 0.82% nationally, a 1% guaranteed return ain't bad at all. Now, the next one I want to talk about, I've talked about before. It's the J.P. Morgan Chase product, 7-year product, linked to a basket of 10 stocks, 7% auto cap. But the real feature here and the real story is this stock floor of -5%. This is the lowest I've ever seen. Of course, the knock on this product is it has no minimum guarantee. But let's take a look at the probabilities of that minimum guarantee, that goose egg, coming up on your client's annual statement. I've showed you this chart before. With the stock not able to go down more than -5% for purposes of calculating the total return, if only one stock is negative, the client's going to receive 5.8%. If 2 stocks are negative, 4.6%. If 3 are negative, 3.4%. If 4 are negative, they're still getting a 2.2% annualized return. Folks, with only 6 out of 10 stocks being equal to or greater than their initial share price, you're at more than double what a traditional 5-year CD is paying. And look at this. Even if half the stocks tank, if 5 out of 10 tank, your client is still going to receive a 1% return. This -5% floor, this stop loss feature in this product really, really is the story. Because without it, let's take a look at what can happen with some other scenarios. We've had products with all different stock floors. Here's one at 10%. You notice that if 5 of these stocks tank, you're in negative territory. And in this product, if it had a 10% floor, you'd be looking at a goose egg on your client's statement. With a 15% floor, it's even worse. If you have 3 negative stocks, you're barely in the game, barely in the game. And with a 30% floor, and we've had a number of products that have that 30% floor, 2 stocks tanking out of the 10 is going to sink this ship. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is, and I talk about this all the time, the importance of not losing in terms of total returns. Everybody thinks about, how much do I get on the upside? But the reality is preventing a loss is often more important than how much upside you get. And you can see what a huge difference there is between a -5% floor and a -30% floor. That's the story here. Minimizing potential losses in the interest rate calculation. And then, of course, my favorite product, the Goldman Sachs product, The Momentum Builder comes in two flavors. You have a 7-year or an 8-year product. You've got a choice. Of course, there's higher compensation for you in the 8-year product than in the 7-year product. They both pay a guaranteed annual interest rate. That's minimum guarantee is 1% in the 7-year, or gets bumped up to 1.2%. If the client's willing to go an extra year over an 8-year period. That extra 0.20%, if this product underperforms, could be very important. But that's not the story here. The story on this CD is asset allocation, dynamic asset allocation. As I've talked about, this index is linked to 14 different ETFs across 7 different asset classes. This is truly a diversified portfolio. It's an all-weather product. If you have a prospect sitting in front of you that's worried about a stock market correction, don't link them to the S&P 500. Don't link them to a basket of 10 stocks. If they're concerned about commodities, don't throw them in there. Why not give them dynamic asset allocation? That's the story here, but the bigger story is how well this strategy performs. I mean, look at these numbers. Year to date, 2014 through August, it's up 7.54%. There is no cap on the CD, folks. 7.54% return on a CD? Are you kidding? If you can't sell this, you can't sell anything. Look at the other returns. Only 4.13 last year, but prior to that, 2012, 8.14, 2011, 9.14, 2010, 9.59, 2009, 7.77. Folks, the story here is asset allocation and diversification and how that can affect the total return in a portfolio. This, of course, as you know, is my favorite product, and for a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason is this is a great story to tell. In addition to having the story to tell, available to you are also some support materials. Every month, the performance of this index is reported on. You can see at the top left-hand corner, this is the September 2nd report. And I'm not going to give you the whole report. It's 9 pages long, but I just want to show you the kind of stuff that's in there because you can download this report every month, put it in your briefcase, put it on your desk, and when the appropriate time comes to talk about asset allocation and how well it performs as a strategy, you can show your clients and prospects this particular report, updated monthly. Great explanation of the strategy, the dynamic strategy of rebalancing the index every single month. Weighting as of last month, in how the assets are allocated within there, so they can see kind of how the strategy is working. Performance charts in here. You can see, of course, the red line, I've used this chart before, is the index itself as opposed to the individual asset classes, which are much more volatile and seldom outperform the index itself. Historical weightings, all types of things inside this report, and you can download it every month. I will send you the link for attending today. Anyone who signed in today, I'm going to go ahead and forward the link to this report so you can download it if you so desire and use it in your presentations, or just use it as a tool to educate yourself. Now, as I mentioned at the start of today's presentation, we have reached the cutoff dates for a number of products. We've passed the 23rd and 24th. We still have a couple of products left on the table for tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And those two products just happen to be the JP Morgan 7-year product with the -5% floor, and the Goldman Sachs 8-year product. So you still have an opportunity to move people into either one or both of these marvelous products. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. As always, I'll be happy to take questions at this point. If you have questions and you haven't already done so, please feel free to go ahead and type them into the chat box on your control panel, and I will be sure to respond to as many of those as possible. So if you have questions, go ahead, type them in now, and I will address them as quickly as I can. Gil asks, are the charts available? And the answer, Gil, is yes. In that link to the report on the Goldman Sachs Momentum Builder, all of those charts are available in there. If you want any of the others that aren't in that report, the ones illustrating how the returns can be calculated, those are my charts, and I'll be happy to send them to you. However, if you go into the disclosure documents, they always have hypothetical performance results inside those, which you can use. But if you would like, for some reason, the slides that I created, I'll be more than happy to share those with you. Fred asks, on the Bank of the West commodity product, does the average change if the max is hit in an earlier year? Good question, Fred, but the answer is no. It does not matter in that product when the maximum interest is paid because it isn't credited internally, it's paid externally. So you don't have the compounding effect that you would have in say, an annuity if it was credited in the first year. In that case, yes, of course, it would have a different return and a higher return, but not in the CD because the interest is paid out, not put back into the CD itself. Jeff asks, which product requires that the return be divided by the number of years since inception? Good question, Jeff. I call that annualized point-to-point. That's my terminology. I've never seen it anywhere, but that's the best I can describe it. That applies to the Momentum Builder products. And that is done for a number of reasons. One is most CD investors are used to receiving interest on a regular basis. But the other reason is many of the market-linked CDs that we take a look at are 7-year point-to-point products that don't pay annual interest, and it's unsettled as to whether that is in fact phantom income that the depositor would have to report on their in their income tax forms and, in essence, pay tax on interest that they haven't actually received. It's unsettled. There are the IRS hasn't made a ruling on that, so we don't know. But by dividing the point-to-point return by the number of years, we're able to clearly establish an interest payment. And it is paid, so we essentially eliminate the phantom income issue that may or may not actually exist. Bill asks, can this be used for a qualified plan, such as an IRA? Yes, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful product line for IRAs for a lot of reasons. I could probably spend good 10 to 15 minutes talking just about that. But yes, Bill, these are a great product for qualified money. Charles says, so the Goldman Sachs pays an annual return? Yes, Charles, it does indeed. Interest is paid annually on each of the products that we featured on our platform this month. The Goldman Sachs, yes, but also the others as well. Gil asks also, what does it cost if you have an early liquidation? That's a topic I've addressed numerous times. The client, of course, can get out of these products at any time they like. There is no surrender charge. There is no penalty for early withdrawal. But in order to get out, they need to redeem it or sell it back to the bank at whatever the current market value could be or is. And that market value could be more or it could be less. than the original principal amount. As a rule of thumb, if they try to liquidate it in the first 3 to 4 years of the CD, they're likely, not always, but likely to take a hit to the principal. In many cases, after the 4th year, the liquidation price is generally, doesn't have to be, but is generally positive in regards to a return of principal. So the cost depends on the market value of the CD. We have had extremes in both directions. We have had CDs that after 1 year it only made sense to liquidate them and capture that market value gain. Others, we've waited 3 or 4 years and they still would have an impact on principal. But keep in mind 2 things. One is if the client holds the CD to maturity, they're guaranteed to get 100% of their principal back, which means unless you have an investment vehicle that can guarantee the same thing, it's probably not wise or in the client's best interest to move them. And second, because the CDs are issued in $1,000 denominations, what is in essence a partial liquidation is possible. So, for example, if a client has $100,000 in the CDs with us, they do not have one single $100,000 CD. They, in fact, have 100 $1,000 CDs, and so they could liquidate in $1,000 increments any portion of that initial $100,000 purchase that they chose to. So, good questions today, folks. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. As always, I know your time is valuable, and I do appreciate the time that you spend with me on these webinars. I'll be back here same time, same place next week, 11:35 Pacific time. I'm very hopeful that we will have a new product launch on Wednesday. It is the 1st of October, and sometimes the banks are a little bit tardy, but I'm very hopeful we'll have new stuff to put out to you. But I think our platform this month was so good, you're likely to see very much more of the same. So with that, I'll thank you for joining us, and we will talk again. Have a great week.